2003 was an absolutely stellar year for hip-hop. The mainstream was bidding farewell to Jay-Z with his then retirement project, the Black Album, while ushering in a new era of melodic New York gangster rap with 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. At the same time, T.I. was helping to introduce the world outside of the South to the sound that would go on to dominate modern music with trap music. Likewise, the underground was seeing some monumental shifts of its own. MF Doom released two incredible projects with Vaudeville Villain and Take Me to Your Leader as Victor Vaughn and King Ghidra respectively, while down south Little Brother was releasing a little-known LP called The Listening that would lay the foundation for a storied career in and of itself. Brother Ali's Shadows on the Sun, Gang Star's The Owners, Cannabis with Rip the Jacker, and The Diplomats with Diplomatic Immunity. 2003 really was the year where, regardless of what kind of hip-hop you were a fan of, there was most definitely something there for you. But still, there was one project so far under the radar, so buried in the depths of the underground, that even the most hardcore hip-hop heads wouldn't catch on to it until years later when its follow-up was released in 2006. Today, we're going to take a look at one of 2003's best, most slept-on releases, The Darkest Cloud, by underground Chicago legend Vakill. Now, to say that Vakill was completely unknown in 2003 may be slight hyperbole. He had been making a name for himself locally since debuting in 1995, and on the national scale he had scored a collaboration with New York legend Percy P with 1996's Rhymefest collaboration, Keep the Fame. But unless you were acutely attuned to the Midwest underground scene, chances are Vakill wasn't a name that you stumbled across in your everyday digging excursions. For anyone who was paying attention though, you may have noticed that Chicago's underground movement started to bubble in the early 2000s, most notably with 2001's Mole Men release, Ritual of the Mole Men. The album was notable for heavyweight underground features from the likes of MF Doom, Slug, C-Ray's Walls, and Aesop Rock, and while the purpose of the album was to showcase the production skills of the Mole Men crew, there was also another, more important piece of the puzzle being put into place. Namely, introducing the world at large to Vakill.
That reciprocated back to Cro-Magnon with a full magnum, leaving holes in your ass so deep your exit wounds a flow magma.
The Vakill-led song The Equinox more than served its purpose, and underground fans everywhere began to take notice of this witty, brutal, and oftentimes hilarious punchline rapper. For anyone rabid enough to do the legwork, and mind you this was well before the internet is what it is today, you may have been lucky enough to stumble across the 2001 compilation Kill 'Em All, which compiled many of Vakill's earliest works from the mid-90s until then. But for the majority of people it became a waiting game, checking whatever random hip-hop message boards you had access to at the time in hopes of an update. And then finally, in May of 2003, with little fanfare or promotion, The Darkest Cloud was unleashed on the world. Running at 15 tracks, there isn't even the slimmest bit of fat to be trimmed on this LP. Every song is focused and concise, proving the old music adage that artists spend their entire lives making their first album to be true. It would have been easy for Vakill to turn in an LP with nothing other than blistering punchlines and battle raps, which to be fair he does spend a good majority of this album doing just that. But there's also moments of deep introspection and social commentary sprinkled throughout, painting vivid pictures of the cold streets of Chicago. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. After a brief intro, the album gets its proper start with the title track, The Darkest Cloud. Laced with the dark, nightmarish track courtesy of Memo, Vakill starts the track by spitting, letting both the listener and the competition know immediately what kind of lyricist it is that we're dealing with here. Vakill rattles off punchline after punchline, his flow dangerously balancing between being almost offbeat, yet landing in such a way that it creates a rhythm that is almost uniquely his own. Vakill has stated before that Kool G Rap and especially Pharoah Monch were inspirations on his style of rapping, and while his style is different enough that it may be hard to draw the comparison at first, his offbeat, on-beat cadences perfectly reflect those rappers when properly dissected. The album takes a complete U-turn with the next song, titled Creed, a track that I personally feel is a highlight of the album. Memo again steps up to the plate with another incredible beat, but where the darkest cloud was dark and foreboding, Creed is the opposite, sounding almost wistful and melancholic. And again, Vakill comes out swinging, spitting one of my all-time favorite bars when rapping.
I granted my neighborhood immunity during the Rodney King riots when niggas burned down and looted their community. Instead, I pulled bricks from the walls of my imagination and threw them through the window of opportunity.
It's written in such a beautifully poetic, vividly descriptive way, and delivered with the same offbeat yet perfectly in-pocket cadence that would go on to become Vakill's trademark. Vakill has a certain blueprint that his verses follow that I think this song perfectly captures, opening with a powerful, ear-catching bar before effortlessly sliding into showcasing his technical prowess by stacking as many multi-syllable rhyme schemes as he can, and capping it off with a witty, oftentimes hilarious punchline. It's a formula that works throughout the album and helps keep the listener engaged by always offering something a bit different every few bars. Creed leads itself perfectly into the Panic-produced Till the World Blows Up, a laid-back and somber track that brings to mind the kind of production Scarface was favoring on his 2002 Def Jam album, The Fix. The track finds Vakill getting introspective about losing loved ones over senseless violence.
Yeah, you prone to violence, just not to start provoking acts. You were smarter folks than that, especially to lose your life over a starter coat and hat. I'm still heated, so what? Your pain is my pain until the world blows up.
Now, up until this point in the album, Vakill has made it a point to show that he's a multi-dimensional artist, as deeply introspective as he is witty. But it's on the next song, titled Sickplicity, which many would argue is the album's most memorable cut, that he showcases the razor-sharp punchlines and wit that got him this far to begin with. Panic again comes through, giving Vakill a beat that's equal parts DJ Premier and RZA. It's ominous, energetic, and the perfect backdrop for Vakill to spaz out on and let loose with some of his most wild punchlines.
Person, a knock joke, malicious, tattooed F-U-N on my dick, but fuck you niggas while I poke fun at your bitches.
When I tell you that punchlines like this had the underground in a stranglehold in early 2000s, it cannot be stated enough. Vakill was the premier punchline rapper for bars like this, and Sickplicity is full of them front to back. It's just clever quotable after clever quotable, and for the most part, it could be argued that for a while this was Vakill's signature song when he really started to make a name for himself. Let's shift gears for a bit though and speak on some of the guest features. For the most part, Vakill holds everything down solo on this project, only enlisting guests for 2 songs. But this is one of those less is more situations. On the track Forbidden Scriptures, Vakill tags in Breeze Everflowin', Copyright, Camus, and Jakai the Motormouth. The song is everything you would expect out of an early 2000s posse cut. Which is to say that thematically, the only thing holding it together is that every rapper is vying to see who can come with the hardest punchlines and say the most outlandish shit.
I walk on stage, dick in hand, outspit your clan. I know the crowd's feeling me no matter how stiff they stand.
This is back when every song with a feature list like this was carefully examined and dissected, viewed as a competition by the listeners and the source of endless debates over who got who on the track. There's something to be said about the simplicity of 5 incredible rappers getting together and just rapping. No deeper meaning, no higher concept, just some old school get on the mic and rap, and Forbidden Scriptures delivers on that exactly. Speaking of high concept though, the next guest feature comes in the form of fellow underground legend Slug of Atmosphere fame. Where Vakill used his first series of guest features to flex his skill as an MC, on Fallen, he wisely enlists Slug to help bring a conceptual story to life. The song finds Vakill portraying a down-on-his-luck rapper, recently dropped from his label, who sees his life start to fall apart and eventually loses it, murdering the CEO of the label that dropped him. Slug, for his part, comes in as the voice of reason, playing a SWAT team crisis negotiator, trying to defuse the situation. It's an incredibly well-told story, and the concept doesn't buckle under Vakill's densely packed lyrics, never losing focus or becoming too hard to follow. Panic, for his part, gave both MCs a cinematic, piano-driven beat to work with that's sure to remind anyone who's done their homework of Immortal Technique's Dance with the Devil. Which, by the way, in case you didn't know,
then he's gotta take my head off. Now what's his name? Does he have a family? What's the background? Did he pick the place randomly?
Vakill further displays this creativity on The Sweetest Way to Die, this time taking on the role of a notorious graffiti artist making a name for himself in the streets, and later dealing with the consequences as the police start to close in on him. The album is one highlight after another, Vakill displaying his full range as an artist and showcasing creativity I'm sure most people didn't even realize he was capable of. It would have been easy, and expected if we're being honest, for Vakill to give us an album full of punchlines and complicated flow patterns and call it a day. But instead he offers up so much more. Reflective songs, socially conscious songs, concepts, storytellings, all of this while being laced with some of the best production the underground had to offer. If I was forced to find a negative and really wanted to be overly critical for no other reason than to be critical, I might say that while the production, while all being handled by the Mole Men, does offer the album a certain cohesion, at some point some of the music can start to sound similar. But even that isn't necessarily a bad thing, as again, it lends itself to a very cohesive, complete sound. So to come full circle, 2003 was a monumental year for hip-hop. And in retrospect, it's easy to see how an underground gem like The Darkest Cloud could have been lost in the shuffle. With the success of his 2006 classic, Worst Fears Confirmed, The Darkest Cloud did get a second lease on life, being discovered by a new fan base looking to see where it all started. Sadly, in the time between this album and now, Vakill has only released 2 LPs and 1 EP, leading to him becoming somewhat forgotten about. So, if you're new to Vakill's music, or looking for some raw, Midwest hip-hop you may have missed out on, this one is absolutely a great place to start. And if you're a longtime fan, there's never been a better time to revisit it. Vakill's The Darkest Cloud is a great LP.